The world of criminal justice is full of unexpected developments. Today we examine several cases so shocking and peculiar they strain belief, yet each one is documented fact. Our initial story blends reality with deception, unfolding through a series of bizarre events. On June 29, 2003, two teenagers, a 14-year-old we'll call John and a 16-year-old we'll call Mark, walked through an alley known as Goose Green in the quiet town of Altrincham, England. These are pseudonyms used to protect their real identities. During their walk, John was assaulted. He was stabbed once in the abdomen and a second time in the chest. Roughly 20 minutes after the attack, Mark phoned for an ambulance, reporting that a deranged man had assaulted his companion. He described the attacker as a man in his early 20s, wearing a black hooded sweatshirt and black denim. Soon, authorities were searching for a knife-wielding madman in the vicinity. John was taken urgently to Wythenshawe Hospital, where surgeons removed his gallbladder after one stab wound penetrated his kidney and liver. During the operation, John nearly died twice. Fluid accumulation in his chest required him to be placed on a ventilator to breathe. Against all odds, he survived. The apparently random violence stunned the community, as the area was known for its peace and low crime. But the situation was about to become far more strange. Police soon discerned inconsistencies in Mark's account. The route where he claimed the assailant fled ended at a 40-foot drop. Furthermore, review of security camera footage revealed no one besides the two boys had entered the alley. Mark was arrested for attempted murder. After providing several conflicting versions of events, John eventually confessed that his friend was the one who had stabbed him. John stated to police, "Mark did it once, stood up, holding me, did it again. He was kneeling on me saying, 'Trust me,' holding the knife to my stomach." John recounted screaming, "Call an ambulance, I'm dying." Mark responded, "Shush, people will hear, please be quiet." John then cried out, "You've killed me." To which Mark replied, "Don't say that. Don't let that be the last thing you were saying." Mark's arrest, while surprising, was not the conclusion. A second arrest occurred 4 months post-attack, with John himself taken into custody and charged with inciting murder. The murder he had conspired to bring about was his own. In the months leading to the assault, John had devoted countless hours to internet chat forums, inventing half a dozen distinct identities and weaving elaborate narratives for each. It was through these fabricated personas that he communicated with Mark. Reportedly, Mark had no clue that the various individuals he chatted with online were all John, employing different names, email addresses, and even altering writing styles for each character. John first befriended Mark through an initial fake profile named Rachel West, who claimed the real John was her brother. Through sustained dialogue, Mark developed an infatuation with this girl he knew only through chat, and at her prompting, befriended her brother in person. Using his 6 online characters, John constructed a startling universe where Mark was in a relationship with Rachel. A world populated by kidnappers, assassins, and government agents, with Mark as a central participant. Though this universe existed solely in text, Mark became ensnared in a half-real, half-fictional realm entirely orchestrated by John and his cast of characters. John meticulously incorporated details of real people from Mark's life, blending reality with fiction to make the deception profoundly immersive and believable. The 16-year-old Mark was notably susceptible, drawn deeply into John's fabrications. A judge later observed of the case with chilling effect that skilled writers of fiction would struggle to conjure up a plot such as arises here. Mark's communication with John's personas was so incessant that investigators had to sift through 133 gigabytes of data. Some 58,000 lines of text were entered as evidence, representing merely a fraction of the total exchanges between Mark and John's 6 aliases. John later remarked that deceiving his friend was, in his words, like feeding a dog. Reports indicate John labored exhaustively to sustain this dark fiction, often tending to his fabricated world from 4 in the afternoon until 7 the next morning. He later explained, "I'd stopped eating in March. Just wanted to be on the internet. That's all that mattered." It was through the persona of a British agent named Janet Dobinson that John persuaded Mark to kill him. This character informed Mark that everyone around him could be a government agent, and that he had been chosen for potential recruitment. To prove his worth, he needed to kill John. Janet spun an implausible tale that John was terminally ill with a brain tumor. But British intelligence needed him dead sooner because he safeguarded £568 billion in a massive vault containing the world's most valuable jewels. John's death was necessary to protect the treasure. Mark was rapidly convinced, though he sought reassurance from the secret agent that killing John wouldn't constitute murder. "You want me to kill him? That's what you're asking me?" Mark wrote to Janet in their chat. "And just leave him to die? What should I say to him? Stand there a minute while I stab you?" "You love him," John responded, posing as Janet in the dialogue, engineering his own death and directing his friend to carry it out. Little further persuasion was needed. On the day of the incident, Mark said to John, "I love you, bro," immediately before stabbing him twice. John was a lonely, depressed adolescent craving attention. He felt imprisoned by the online world he had built and saw no other escape. Some investigators concluded John orchestrated his own murder and cast Mark as the killer out of fear and a desperate wish to die. Others view him as purely wicked for his masterful manipulation. It is also thought John targeted Mark for this deception because he was romantically attracted to him and believed Mark was unattainable. Initially, John used the fake persona Rachel as a means to converse with Mark. But events escalated wildly from that point. As strange as the case is, another odd element remains. Throughout the chats, Mark appeared convinced by the supposed agent Janet that he would be released after killing John. Yet, when arrested, he never asked for her or mentioned the government conspiracy that allegedly compelled him to kill his friend, even though he supposedly believed it would exonerate him. Instead, during his confession, he told police he heard voices instructing him to do it. This leads many to question how much of John's fantasy Mark truly accepted. Even John suspects Mark knew the characters weren't real. This perspective lends some weight to the theory that both boys wished to end the web of lies between them, and Mark was prepared to kill John to stop it. Both pled guilty to their respective charges. John is possibly among the first individuals ever convicted of inciting his own murder. This next account matches the dramatic intensity of the Goose Green stabbing, but carries even graver outcomes. Residing in Fayetteville, North Carolina in 1985, the Eastburn family were military people. Captain Gary Eastburn served in the Air Force and had relocated his family to Pope Air Force Base for his role as Chief of Air Traffic Control. His wife, Katie, was supportive of moving wherever her husband's career required, gladly bringing their 3 children, 5-year-old Kara, 3-year-old Aaron, and 22-month-old Jenna. In May 1985, the family planned a more significant change, preparing to move to England where Gary would work as a liaison with the Royal Air Force. Gary was away in Montgomery, Alabama, for training at a squadron officer's school during much of the packing and preparations, leaving Katie to manage most of the responsibilities. She realized they could not bring their English setter, Dixie, overseas, so she placed an advertisement in the local paper seeking a new home for the dog. On May 7th, 27-year-old Army Sergeant Timothy Hennis responded to the ad and visited the Eastburn home to see Dixie. Timothy stated he and his wife had a Spitz and, with a newborn daughter, it was an ideal time to add another dog. He took Dixie with him. On May 11th, Gary grew concerned when Katie failed to answer his repeated calls, but assumed she was preoccupied with the move and the children. However, a neighbor also grew worried and contacted police after not seeing the family for some time. Officers discovered Katie's body inside the house beside the bed, along with the bodies of her 2 eldest children. Death has a smell, its own aroma. "I'll never forget the smell in there," one detective later recalled. Katie had been sexually assaulted, stabbed 15 times, and her throat was cut. Kara had also been stabbed, and Aaron was bludgeoned in the chest and back. Jenna was unharmed by the attacker, but was severely dehydrated when found. The deaths were estimated to have occurred on the night of May 9th into the early hours of May 10th. Investigators found fingerprint and hair evidence, and luminol testing revealed the killer had made a feeble attempt to clean the scene. Shattered by the tragedy, Gary returned home to assist the investigation. He determined that cash and Katie's ATM card were missing, along with a slip of paper where she had written her PIN. Witnesses came forward stating they had seen a man enter the Eastburn home the night of the murders. He was described as a tall white male wearing a knit cap and a black jacket with "Members Only" inscribed on the back. He was seen leaving the house in a white Chevrolet. Katie's bank card was used after her death to withdraw money, and witnesses saw a man matching the same description near the ATM. Timothy Hennis quickly emerged as the prime suspect, fitting the witness descriptions. One witness positively identified him in a lineup. Timothy claimed his only contact with Katie was when he collected the dog, and he asserted he was at his in-laws' home the night of the killings, except for a brief stop for gas on his return trip. Despite this, he was interviewed and asked to provide saliva, hair, and fingerprint samples. His alibi unraveled when a former girlfriend came forward, saying he had visited her that night, and evidence showed he brought his member's only jacket to a dry cleaner on May 10th. Neighbors also reported seeing him burning items in a trash bin. Timothy was arrested and charged with all 3 murders. At trial, he rejected a plea deal. He was found guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. While on death row, Timothy received an anonymous letter stating, "Dear Mr. Hennis, I did the crime. I murdered the Eastburns. Sorry, you're doing the time. I'll be safely out of North Carolina when you read this." An identical letter was sent to the local sheriff's office. Based on this new element, Timothy appealed his sentence, winning a retrial in 1988, the first time a North Carolina death row inmate had been granted one. Timothy's defense team argued that because police used graphic crime scene photos during his interrogation, the images exerted undue influence and tainted his statements. The new trial scrutinized the witnesses who claimed to have seen Timothy. One witness's testimony was questioned as he described the weather as fair that night when it was actually overcast. Another witness was challenged because she initially said she did not see Timothy near the bank but changed her statement just before trial. The sole physical evidence seemingly linking Timothy was his member's only jacket, but the defense demonstrated it had been tested and revealed no traces of blood. In a stunning reversal, Timothy went from awaiting execution for these horrific crimes to being found not guilty on all charges. After the trial, Gary Eastburn took his surviving daughter to England, where he later remarried. Following his acquittal, Timothy Hennis re-enlisted in the army and was promoted to staff sergeant. He served in Iraq and Somalia and participated in Operation Desert Storm. Upon retirement, he held the rank of master sergeant. But the twists in this case were not over. In 2005, Captain Larry Trotter attended a detective seminar that used the unsolved Eastburn murders as a case study on evidentiary credibility. There, he learned a semen sample collected from the crime scene had never undergone DNA testing, as the technology was considered unreliable in the late 1980s. Trotter arranged for the sample to be tested. In 2006, the results shockingly confirmed the DNA was a definitive match to Timothy Hennis. While it seemed Trotter had finally solved a decades-old case, a major obstacle existed: double jeopardy. The Fifth Amendment's double jeopardy clause meant that because Timothy had been acquitted of the murders, he could not be retried for the same offenses in civilian court. It appeared Timothy would evade justice for a triple homicide with impunity. However, in another unexpected turn, the Army intervened. In September 2006, Timothy was recalled to active duty and assigned to Fort Bragg. There, he was court-martialed, as the Uniform Code of Military Justice permits trying service members, even if they have been tried in civilian court. This was the sole method to circumvent double jeopardy. Timothy attempted to appeal, arguing the Army lacked jurisdiction, but was denied. He filed 2 additional appeals, both unsuccessful. At his court-martial trial in 2010, the DNA evidence was presented alongside the previous witness statements. Although Timothy's defense suggested any sexual contact resulting in his DNA being found on Katie's body was consensual, the jury unanimously found him guilty. One detective later emphasized, "Tim Hennis is not a dumb man." His score on an Army General Aptitude test placed him in the 97th percentile, indicating high intelligence, nearly clever enough to get away with murder. The same detective recalled Timothy's caustic humor, noting that after being charged, the man sneered, "Looks like I'm going to get to wear one of those little orange jumpsuits." Detective Robert Biddle described his view of Timothy's sinister motives. Why do people rob banks? They think that others didn't know how to do it right. That was Tim Hennis' attitude. You can't get me, I'm smarter than you are. From 2010 to 2020, Timothy filed multiple appeals and motions for a new trial, all of which were dismissed. He is once again on death row. The final case we present today may be the most disturbing of all. Karl Brandt was born in 1957, the second child of German immigrants living in Connecticut. Known by the nickname Charlie, his early life was conventional and unremarkable, though he was noted as shy. His family grew to include 2 younger sisters and seemed entirely ordinary until Charlie turned 13. On the night of January 3, 1971, Charlie retrieved his father's handgun from its known storage place, located his parents in the bathroom, his father shaving, his mother, 8 months pregnant, bathing, and shot them both. The shots killed his mother and her unborn child instantly and gravely injured his father. Charlie then sought out his older sister, Angela, in her bedroom. He tried to shoot her as well, but the firearm was out of ammunition. Angela fought him off, fled to a neighbor's house for help, and to protect her two younger sisters, whom Charlie had not yet harmed. Charlie pursued her, but, upon reaching the neighbor's home, calmly announced, "I just shot my mom and dad." When police arrived, Angela described her brother as appearing entranced when he entered her room. Authorities determined several factors triggered Charlie's attempt to annihilate his family, including academic pressure and the traumatic event days prior of his father shooting and killing the family dog during a hunting trip. While psychiatrists believed mental illness must be a component, they could diagnose no specific condition in Charlie. Indiana law at the time deemed a 13-year-old too young for a murder trial. After a year in a psychiatric facility, Charlie was released back to his family and society. His younger sisters were never told their brother killed their mother. They were led to believe she died in a car accident, and the subject was never discussed. To all appearances, Charlie's violent episode was an isolated incident. He went on to lead a normal life, earning a degree in electronics in 1984. He secured a job as a radar specialist at Ford Aerospace and married Terry Helfrich in 1986. Reportedly, his sister Angela advised him to tell Terry about the murder, but it is unknown if he did. Some suspect Terry knew but chose to ignore this dark chapter. The couple relocated to Pine Key, Florida, and seemed happy and deeply attached, nearly inseparable. Those who knew Charlie described him as pleasant, relaxed, and quiet. None could have imagined his childhood darkness. In September 2004, the couple evacuated as Hurricane Ivan approached. This event catalyzed their downward spiral. Their niece, Michelle Jones, offered them shelter at her home near Orlando. On September 13th, Michelle canceled plans with friends after an alcohol-fueled argument with Charlie and Terry. For several days afterward, no one could reach Michelle, and her friends and mother grew anxious. A close friend, Debbie Knight, decided to check on her personally on the 15th. What she discovered was horrifying. The house was locked. Debbie forced entry through the garage, where she found Charlie's decomposing body hanging from the rafters, an apparent suicide. Debbie went no further and called police immediately. Inside, officers found Terry's body on a couch, stabbed 7 times. Michelle had been decapitated, her head placed neatly beside her body, and her heart and other organs removed. There were no signs of forced entry. Police concluded Charlie had once again turned murderer. But this was not the primary revelation. Further investigation uncovered Charlie's extensive collection of surgical textbooks, posters, and news clippings. His internet history showed frequent searches for autopsy videos. However, it was the practiced, methodical nature of the attack on Michelle's body and its arrangement that truly alarmed investigators. Evidence suggested Charlie had more experience with killing than could be gained from shooting his parents or studying autopsies. They began reviewing cold cases in his Florida area, but as Charlie traveled extensively for work, they expanded the search statewide and nationally. Police sought cases matching the specific way Charlie had posed Michelle's body. Through this probe, Charlie was first linked to the 1989 murder of Sherry Parashow, whose body was found about 1,000 feet from his and Terry's home. The removal of her heart, part of Charlie's modus operandi, connected him to the crime. Allegedly, Terry had seen blood on Charlie the night Sherry died and confided her suspicions to her then brother-in-law, but no action was taken at the time. Charlie was then also linked to the 1995 killing of Darlene Toller, whose body missing both her heart and head was discovered along a highway Charlie frequently used. The deaths of both Sherry and Darlene were described as surgical in precision. The case took another startling turn with the exposure of Charlie's double life. He was connected to an additional 24 unsolved homicides in Florida, some dating back to 1973, the year he moved to the state. This timeline means Charlie potentially began his career as a prolific serial killer at age 16. While not definitively convicted of all 24 deaths, investigators strongly believe he is responsible. It remains possible Charlie committed even more murders in Florida and other regions where he previously lived. His case, like the others discussed today, underscores that one can never truly know another person, and those around us may conceal profound darkness.